But since those are the three areas I enjoy most, I try to develop my routine to have the best balance of all of those because that makes me the happiest. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about something that I think a lot about as a dietitian, and that is how I use nutrition to leverage multiple fitness goals. Whenever you're asking the question of what is the best diet for a specific activity or goal, it technically depends on what specific adaptation you're going for within that goal. Physical adaptations might be improving your endurance, improving your strength, putting on muscle mass, losing body fat, things like that. Now, focusing on multiple adaptations at one time is just not the most efficient way to change your body. But in my experience, this tends to be what most people do, including myself. I know for me, it tends to come down to three different things: my skateboarding, my training, and the aesthetics, or how much body fat and muscle mass I'm carrying at any given time. Over the years, I've developed a balance of developing these three areas, and I've found that leaning too hard into any of them tends to throw another one off. For example, leaning too hard into building as much muscle mass as possible, I'm just not really willing to deal with the amount of body fat I would need to gain and then subsequently have to cut afterwards. On the flip side, if I was to try to get as lean as possible, well, then my skating would definitely suffer, my endurance, my strength would go down, and I would lose muscle mass over time from chronically being in a catabolic state. And then just focusing on sheer strength and how much load I'm able to push around at any given time when in the gym, well, that tends to really wear on my joints, and I'm just not able to recover as much at my age now as I was in my 20s. I've also done what a lot of skateboarders end up doing and saying, hey, I'm just gonna skate for my exercise. I'm just gonna try to get better at skateboarding and get out there and do it as much as possible, and that will be my exercise. And I've done this as well. And as I get older, I've ended up with lower back issues, calf issues, even shoulder issues, just from throwing my shoulders up over and over again trying to learn a trick. And almost all of these injuries were a combination of overuse and a lack of resistance training. Because contrary to what a lot of people out there on social media will tell you, you can't really build muscle efficiently just from skateboarding. So over the years, I've kind of fine-tuned my diet and training to really work for me and what my priorities are. And again, even though my three main goals focus around skateboarding, training, and aesthetics, my plan is not the most efficient way to optimize any of those. It's not the most efficient way to be the best skateboarder I can, to be the highest level of fitness I possibly can have, or to have the best aesthetics I could possibly have. But since those are the three areas I enjoy most, I try to develop my routine to have the best balance of all of those because that makes me the happiest. Now, that being said, there are three main points I'm constantly thinking about when balancing out my skating, my training, and my body composition. And those are my calories in, my carbohydrate timing, and my total protein intake each day. Now, your calories in, or your daily average calorie intake, is huge. This is going to determine your body weight, how much body fat you carry. It's going to determine how much energy you have available to skate, to train, and to carry out daily activities. Now, one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable thing that any adult can do for their personal health is to know their calorie ranges and how these ranges are impacting their body weight and body fat. You can do this for free. It just takes time and a little bit of attention to detail to figure it out. For example, for me personally, I've figured out over time that if I'm eating less than 2,500 calories per day on average, I'm going to slowly be losing body fat. If I'm eating at or just over 2,500 calories, I might be gaining a little bit of weight over time, or I might actually be staying about the same, depending on what my activity level is looking like on average. So then I know pretty definitively that if I'm tracking my intake and I'm logging less than 2,500 calories per day, on average, I'm going to be losing body fat each week. And likewise, if my goal is to put on muscle mass and I'm trying to kind of lean into that, then I know that if I'm eating closer to 3,000 calories on average while I'm lifting really hard, then it's very likely I'm going to be putting on muscle mass because I'm in a caloric surplus. And contrary to what you might read online, these numbers aren't going to change a whole lot as you get older. The amount of calories that you're going to burn every day isn't really going to change a whole lot. It's just that your activity level will change. And so it's important to periodically spot check these things. Go ahead and start logging into a free app like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal or MacroFactor or something like that, and be tracking your body weight week to week to week while you're logging and tracking your calories, and you'll be able to see right away the relationship between what your daily average calorie intake is and how it's influencing your body weight. Now, the tricky part can be when you're trying to bring total calories down on average so that you can lose body fat, but you're also trying to sustain some degree of skateboarding regularly and training. And this is where carb timing can really be helpful. Studies have shown over and over again that for especially activity lasting longer than an hour, having carbohydrates before physical activity tends to consistently improve performance. So this can come in really handy when total calories and total carbohydrates per day are limited due to a fat loss goal. What that might look like is, for me personally, a number that I fall back on often is about 200 grams of carbohydrate per day when I am trying to watch my body composition or lose body fat. That just seems to work out pretty well for me. And so what I'll do is get at least half of those carbohydrates before I skate or before I train. And so that looks like anywhere from 60 to 100 grams in the hours leading up to training or skating. All right, and the last thing is protein intake. I'm constantly thinking about my protein intake. This is actually a big reason that I don't skip breakfast, because I've found that if I don't have a nice big protein dense breakfast, it's kind of difficult to get the amount of protein that I personally need each day. The vast majority of the clients I work with don't get enough protein. It's really important that most of us are getting about 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight at least. And you got to think, you might have circumstances that are easily bumping your protein needs above that. So strength athletes, people who are skateboarding a lot, just the act of trying to reduce your body fat, putting yourself in a caloric deficit, you would actually benefit from having more protein in a caloric deficit, even more so than when you're bulking, trying to increase muscle mass in a surplus. And so these are definitely things to think about. Protein helps us feel full. So if you're in a caloric deficit and you're trying to lose body fat, it's going to be what you're going to lean on to help you feel full throughout the day. It's going to help you recover from skate sessions and training, and it's going to help us keep muscle on our frame as we age, because we're all inevitably going to lose muscle mass as we age. So this is why that resistance training component is so important not to neglect, as well as making sure you're getting that minimum amount of protein each day. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this insight into how I think about my training and my skating and my body composition goals, because I know a lot of you out there have very similar goals. And so I'm curious if this overlaps with the kind of things that you're already thinking about out there, or if you have any questions or want to spark conversation in the comments, always go for that. And appreciate you watching, and we'll see you soon.